a Wednesday edition of the program. It's Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. Got a good show today. We're going to have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com, senior writer there, covers a lot of football and other sports. And then the second portion, we're going to step out of our Gator Nation and we're going to talk to Micheal Barrow, my former teammate with the Carolina Panthers, a member of the Miami Hurricanes, won 2 national titles down there. Talk a little Hurricanes football. But first, we're going to go to the Titan of our hotline, and we're joined by our good friend, Scott Carter. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Hey, doing well, Shane. Just like I told you, got out of Gainesville a little bit and hanging out in South Florida. Coming back that way or later today.
Move your camera down just a little bit so we can check that T-shirt out.
Oh, yeah.
Good old focus.
Old school there, man. Doesn't quite fit me as well as it used to. I've grown a little bit.
Some good times at the Purple Porpoise. Well, Scott, we appreciate you taking the time today. Let's talk first about, I'm sure you were on, I missed Coach Mullen's presser yesterday. Yep. Fill everybody a little bit about what he talked about during his press conference that was on Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a wide-ranging thing. Everything's so fluid. One of the things I found most interesting, and if you're a coach or a player, you can understand this. The hardest part from all this, has just been that lack of routine. These guys are so used to routine, and when everything is disrupted like this, especially in spring ball, they've had to kind of reinvent the wheel in some ways, whether it's virtual recruiting or obviously the players are now back for workouts. So they're going on schedule right now. I mean, the genesis the point he tried to make over and over was there's a lot we can't control, but we're trying to control everything as if the season is going to start on time. And, he talks some about the NCAA altering the calendar of what the coaches can and can't do. And right now it's kind of quiet, but starting in late July through early August, the coaches are going to be able to get out there and have walkthroughs and to get some, FaceTime with these guys because they're doing it mostly on Zoom right now with Mullen. So that will be big for him and the coaching staff just to kind of develop, reestablish that connection with his players. I mean, it's so hard to build a team, as you know, and then when you're trying to do it virtually, it's a lot harder. And of course, these guys are all, while they've been working out and stuff, I mean, they're all in different. There's football shape, and then there's working out like most people. And they're trying to overcome some of that right now as the guys get back, and it's hard to do when you can't do a lot of stuff you normally do this time of year. So those were a couple of the highlights of it. And obviously, it's just I think he was getting ready to go on a vacation, Shane, and decompress. And I know when he gets back, he's hoping that the signs are still moving forward, that there is going to be a season.
Yeah, you're right. Athletes are used to a routine as well as coaches. And let everybody know that right now, even though kids are back on campus, they're not seeing their position coaches at all. The only people they're in contact with are the training staff, obviously doing the temperature checks and all that kind of stuff, but it's just a strength staff, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's very limited right now. Obviously, they do have meetings via Zoom and other technology, but that's just not what they're used to. Football, it's like it's an energy sport. I mean, that you feed off that energy toward the season, and to get that back, you have to be together. You have to kind of have that common bond, and it's just a weird place for everybody right now. I mean, and that's what we're dealing with.
Scott, last time I heard, I think we'd had around 87 student athletes back on campus. It may have been more now. So that means usually you have about 120 on your roster, counting the walk-ons and stuff. How many do we have on campus right now working out, and when do they expect everybody to be here?
Well, just from whatever, I think most of the guys are back. There's still some players who I know, like Marco Wilson, for instance. I think he stayed in South Florida for now, unless he's come back recently. Some of these guys had different setups at home maybe than some other guys. So I think most of them are here, Shane. What's that date when everybody's going to be here? I can't specifically say. I don't know. I think by that start of, obviously, that July 24th date that Mullen talked about yesterday, that's something that he's got circled on his calendar. You could tell, because that's when I think they can get back to at least some normal routine on what they try to do this time of year. It's almost, I think he called it like a preseason camp,
Right.
So I would think by that date is when everyone would have to be back. And as you know, the 120, that includes the walk-ons too. And this is that time of year where some of those guys that we, start showing up that we don't even know about yet, where they try to get on the team. So just a lot of unknowns there, Shane. But I would say by mid to late July is when everyone would have to be on board to have a season.
Let's move forward. All the magazines, which that's when I used to get excited as a young kid when I'd walk through the grocery store and there's the Athlons and the Lindy's and all those different type preseason magazines. They're out now, and I'm sure you've seen some of those. Most of them have the Gators playing Alabama in Atlanta. Are you surprised at that?
Not really. I mean, I think this is that year where people are looking at Florida in a way they haven't looked at Florida in a long time. I mean, I think you have to go back to really, and it didn't turn out to be what they had hoped. But, Urban Meyer's final year is the last year that the Gators were, I think, thought of so highly in the preseason. And that goes back to what Mullen and his staff have done, 21-5, a couple of nice bowl wins. But we all know there's that one big step that they haven't taken yet, and that's beat Georgia. And while Georgia is still going to be very formidable this year, I think people are looking at this could be the year Florida does it. So it's like that momentum, Shane, the off-season momentum. It doesn't mean anything by kickoff, but I think Florida has that on their side this year. That's why we're seeing a lot of people, Florida's kind of a trendy off-season pick. They're not in the playoff by these magazines, but if you look at the one or two teams knocking at the door, it seems to be Florida and Penn State as the two favorites to maybe finally crack that playoff. So, Gator fans will take that if that comes to fruition, obviously. But a lot of unknowns until then. The biggest is, can they beat Georgia and Jacksonville?
Right. Let's talk about the incoming freshmen. I had Jason Odom on my show. Can't remember if it was this week or last week, but he and Reggie Green, my senior year in '92, they came in as true freshmen, and we had to play them right away at both tackles. That was unheard of back in 1992. Nowadays, kids expect to play as freshmen coming in. I guess what I want to ask you is, from what you've heard, and we haven't seen any of these guys put a Gator uniform on yet, really. Do you think there's a handful of them that will definitely redshirt this year?
I would always think there's going to be some guys in a class that redshirt, even though there always are some holes on the roster. You look at those guys early in camp, and unless they just stand out right away, I think they kind of fall into that category of, maybe redshirting unless injuries or other developments take place that you really need them to fill spots on the field. But you look at this group that they brought in. I mean, there's certain guys like, Garden Dexter and Derek Wingo and maybe Xavier Henderson, who I don't think we're going to have to worry about those guys redshirting. But there'll be some guys, at the end of the year where, there'll be some red shirts. I don't know who they are right now, and I don't know if Dan Mullen and those guys probably know who they are right now. But there's also opportunity there for them to come in and play. You do see that more and more, like you said, and I think that's just what these guys expect in this day and age. And, it goes back to really, it's like during your playing time and even afterward, you're right. Florida State, Miami, I remember those schools would stack those guys where you didn't have to play them right away. But now those guys, if they don't get a chance at these Florida schools to at least get a play, guess what? They go to these other schools out of state. And that's why you've seen Florida get recruited so heavily, because, you can't stack those guys anymore because they do want to play.
Yeah. Let's talking to red shirts. I think we redshirted 3 receivers last year. Obviously, we lost a bunch off this year's team. Talk a little bit about what you've heard. I remember talking to Coach Mullen at one of the practices last year. Maybe it was preparing for the bowl game because it was one of those practices where he's, walking around, joking around and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But he was excited about I think it's 3 receivers that we redshirt. I know it's Whittemore, Marks, maybe Weston, if I'm not mistaken.
Weston. Yeah.
Talk about what you've heard of those guys and how they might make an impact this year at the receiver position.
Well, when I look at the first one, I'll go with Weston because he did make an appearance in the Orange Bowl. He played down in Miami a little bit against Virginia, and I think that's a sign of where he was on the radar. I look maybe as him being the guy a little ahead of the curve of those 3 that you just mentioned. But I remember last fall camp, Shane. I remember watching Trent Whittemore, a local kid, and I was just watching him on the field, and he just fit in nicely. I mean, he's got some nice tools to use. Looks like a guy who they will definitely depend on. And then Deontay Marks, I heard some good things about him later in the year during practice. So I think all 3 of those guys, I mean, they're all kind of in the same boat. There are going to be opportunities there. Which one emerges? Which one impresses the coaching staff the most in preseason to get ahead in the race for a playing time? To me, Weston may be the guy right now who's got the coach's attention the most, just because I know he finished last year pretty strong. You get that playing time in the Orange Bowl. That's always big for a true freshman.
Yeah, no doubt. We're speaking with Scott Carter here on the Titan of our hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Gator Scott. A few more minutes with you. We appreciate you taking the time. We were talking about when you look at the transfers, Dan has done a tremendous job in the transfer portal over the years. Lingard, I believe, is eligible to play.
Yep.
Pouncey, what's the status on the wide receivers that have been that transferred here?
Yeah, really kind of waiting to see. That's something that Mullen did address yesterday. It's like one of the reporters asked him, like, how much do they find out compared to maybe what the media or the fans know? Like, the NCAA, they basically give these waivers to like a guy like Lorenzo Lingard. There's really no reason why. Like, why did he get one and maybe player B didn't get one? So they're still waiting on Shorter and Jordan Pouncey. Mullen said, to be honest with you, they just get informed like this guy's been cleared. He's eligible to play. It's not like there's a packet that arrives with that from the NCAA detailing the reasons why he was approved. And it's kind of one of those things where in today's world, it does seem like an antiquated system. Like, people do kind of want to know more of that process. And NCAA has really never shed much insight into that process. So it does remain a mystery. I don't know what the chances of the other receivers getting cleared. But, if you do add those guys with those 3 freshmen you talked about, and then the returning guys like, Copeland and Grimes and obviously Kyle Pitts, you're looking at a pretty talented group there. So that it's going to be interesting to watch. I know that's going to be one of the, something that we should probably find out sooner than later, because obviously with summer session already started and the summer beat coming up, I mean, that's when we usually find out that kind of information.
We got a Facebook Live comment here brought to you by Pound Hurt, your preferred business interruption attorneys. Buddy says Scott is one of the really good guys, good journalist folks, and has been a huge asset for UF. Knows his way around a newsroom and a press box. One of our guests.
Well, tell him I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So, Scott, I mean, obviously, everyone always wants to talk about offense at Florida, especially with Kyle Trask coming back. Dan has a great track record. We lost some really good players off the defense, John Grenard, Zuniga, C.J. Henderson, and a few others. Who in your mind are some guys that the Gator Nation can keep their eyes on, or some guys that in your mind have to step up for Florida to continue being pretty good on the defensive side of the football?
Well, let's just start up front, Shane. I mean, when you lose Grenard, who, you can make the argument he's the best one-year player in Gators history. I think, just for a guy they signed to come in 1 year, he had a great year. Zachary Carter, I think the door is wide open for him to come in and elevate his status on the defensive line. I've always been intrigued by TJ Slayton. I mean, it's so rare to see a guy that big who can move like he can. And I know that when he came in here, I think he was a classic case, Shane, of a guy who had always just relied on his natural ability and maybe hadn't had to push himself as much as what he was going to have to push himself here at Florida. So I think he's starting to get that message more. I mean, to me, if those two guys can really step up, and you got Kyrie Campbell, some of the familiar names. So I look at those front guys, a couple of guys I mentioned there as key. And another guy, I mean, Jeremiah Moon's always been a guy who we've always heard about. He's got all the measurables that you love in that edge rusher, but he's never been able to really produce consistently on the field. He's had a lot of injury problems. Again, that door is wide open too for him to come in there and maybe have a year that we've been waiting on. You remember a few years ago there was a guy, Million, who we kind of waited on, and it never really happened for him. Maybe it'll happen for I'm blanking right now, Jeremiah Moon. So those are some guys up front. I like the secondary, as I think most people do. To me, it's going to be in those front seven where you're going to have guys maybe do things that we haven't seen them do before to have that same consistency as they had last year.
Refresh your vehicle and your brand with a vehicle wrap from WrapSpot. June is your lucky month at WrapSpot. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. Visit them at wrapspot.com today. So you haven't been real busy, obviously, not having to cover sports and stuff right now. I'm curious because back in the day, and I'm sure a lot of sports information departments still do it, but back in the day, they used to say, they had this big promotion going on of so-and-so for Heisman Trophy, all in the off season. You don't really see that much anymore. And I don't know if it's because of social media or anything like that, but has there been any talk about maybe, because there's talk nationally about Kyle Trask being kind of a sleeper maybe in the Heisman race. Any talk among the sports information department to do any kind of campaign or what have you?
No, I don't think they're there at this point, Shane. I mean, you're right. I do remember those. I remember you get packets in the mail once in a while, maybe it was a poster, reporter's notebook or something that have that player's cover on it. I bet maybe they sent some out for you back in the day. I bet, but
they had something silly. But yeah, I guess maybe now because of social media, you don't really have to do those type of things.
I think that's probably the biggest reason. I do know that you'll see some campaigns once in a while, more later in the season when the race has kind of become crystallized and the few guys, and once in a while you'll still get something, but it's not nearly as often as it once was. It's just one of those things that I think maybe there's so many different ways now to promote, as we know with social media. So I don't know if that's totally a thing of the past, but it's certainly not used as often. But it would be pretty cool if it got to the point in 2020 where maybe that idea popped up where Kyle Trask, I don't know what, the Kyle Trask fan or something for the Swamp. Hopefully people will be there. But yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, he is getting some talk about it, as you said, and again, it's been a while since the Gators have had a player even mentioned in that that level.
Yeah. Well, Scott, you're on a little mini vacation down there. We appreciate you taking the time. Make sure you put your sunscreen on, and
that's right.
Be careful body surfing. That's what Coach Spurrier likes to do, is body surf.
I heard about that. Yes, him and Stoops, right?
Yeah, I don't know how much body surfing he does at age 75 these days, but
he's still. I'm hoping I can do what he does at 75.
Man, I hope I can remember my name at 75. The stuff that he remembers is crazy.
No doubt, no doubt. We talked about it recently. And every time I check out a story, it always seems to come true, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Scott, appreciate it, buddy. Be safe down there, and we'll see you when you get back in Gainesville.
All right, Shane. Have a good one, bud.
That's Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Join us again. You can follow him on Twitter at GatorsScott. At Center State Bank, we put business first. We are the largest community bank in the state of Florida. Center State has 5 convenient Alachua County locations to serve you better. Come in and experience the Center State difference. To learn more, visit centerstatebank.com. Center State Bank, member FDIC. We're going to take our first time out of the program. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Miami Hurricane Micheal Barrow. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. The Best Restoration, Masters of Disasters. Pound Hurt, your preferred personal injury attorneys. Peachland Dental, Gator fans' first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte.
Bob in trouble, gets ready to throw. Big hit.
Our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, The Digital Mortgage Guy, Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Center State Bank, Gator Bait Media, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Miapa Latin Cafe, Gators Dockside, Okido America Martial Arts and After School,
Doreen Weeby Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish,
Radware, Wrap Spot,
and Style Cuts.
If you are interested in promoting your business on this show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the advertise button or call Freddie at 352-284-3733. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
He's looking, still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown!
Saturday, June 20th, the Peak Performance Track Club will have the first safe track and field event of the year. The meet will feature the top track clubs in the country. This event will take place at Santa Fe High School track in Alachua. Competition starts at 8:30 a.m. for ages 5 years to 19 and above. Masks are required and social distancing will be enforced. For more information, contact Danny Grant at 352-214-4981.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate with premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Tommy Hilfiger, Hotel Indigo, Nike, Medici's, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and Visor's Rooftop Bar. We will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators come to celebrate. My next guest, he better be glad he didn't play against the Gators. He wouldn't have been celebrating all back in the day. But my good buddy, old teammate with the Carolina Panthers, Micheal Barrow, Miami Hurricane. Good morning, Micheal. How are you, buddy?
Good morning. Good morning. You throwing shots already, man. Come on, man. Can we all get along, man? Can we all get along? I don't want to be no Gator bait today, man. Come on, man.
Oh, man. Let's go back. I normally have Gators on here, right, Micheal? You're my second Miami Hurricane, though. I had Lamar Thomas a couple of months ago.
LT, right in a hometown boy, huh?
Yes, indeed. So what I like to do with all my former players, we go back to the day back, growing up. You grew up in Homestead down in South Florida. You played multiple sports in high school, or were you strictly a football guy?
Man, I was strictly a football guy. I tried to play basketball, and I couldn't make a layup. They called me the glove. I gave great defense, but couldn't even make a layup, man. And then track, I tried to do it my senior year, throw the disc and a shot, man. I wasn't good. Listen, man, I'm amazed that I even made it in football. Football really the only sport I could play. And I wasn't like athletic. It was more like I was smart and I would study film. Like we back in the day, like I had the little Disney World film projector that you shined on your wall. And I was like studying opponent film. Like I knew how, my coach taught me how to thread the tape if it broke or something like that. And I used to just watch film all the time of the opponent. And I just memorized their plays in high school during that time. They would just run the same plays. So I'll be calling, hey, they run it. And that's basically how I became successful. But athletically, man, growing up, I was like one of the last kids to get picked on the football team. We used to play in front of my grandmother's yard. And my sister used to get picked before me, truth be told. And then when they put me on the team, they'd be like, man, come on, man. They didn't want me. You just hike the ball. You can't go out for a route and nothing. They wouldn't throw me the ball. So literally when I used to tell people I wanted to play football for a career, go to NFL, they used to laugh in my face, man. So I had it bad.
You were a late bloomer is what it was.
I was definitely a late bloomer.
So at Homestead, I mean, obviously down there, you had to grow up a Miami Hurricane fan. Is that where you always wanted to go play? Talk about your recruiting process. Were there any other schools that Micheal Barrow almost went to play for?
Man, I did not. I was not a Hurricane fan growing up. I was a Florida Gator fan.
Really?
Yeah, man. I love Florida Gator. I heard my older brother. When he was a senior, I was a freshman, and so that was at the time where they send you all the media guys, right? And so, man, I grew up watching, loving Wilbur Marshall. That was my dude. I was able to play with him with the Houston Oilers. Man, God, William, the Wall of Florida with Lomas Brown, the running backs, man, Hampton, Neil Anderson, John L. Williams, the linebacker, Lonzo Johnson, Pat Mora, right? Emmitt Smith when he came. Man, I was a Gator fan, true and true. So truth be told, as the process went, I started doing visits out of town. My first visit was to Notre Dame. I went during the bowl week. Man, nobody was on campus. First visit, and I remember calling my mom on the payphone like, Mom, I don't know about this. If I come up here, it'll be all school and no fun. And then I ended up going to Pitt. I visit Pitt and Michigan. And this is what made me decide, like, I was like, you know what, I'm staying in Florida. I went to Michigan, and this linebacker, Bobby Abrams, he was walking around in snow, right? And you know, as you walk on snow, they like, watch the black ice, you'll fall or something like. This guy was in crutches. We're driving around in the car with his coach. And I'm seeing this dude struggle going through the ice. We couldn't get him right. And I was like, no, I'm going home. I'm staying home. So it came down between Florida and Miami. And like I said, Florida was my dream school. And Florida was on probation at the time, but I didn't even think about that. I just love Florida. But I remember, matter of fact, at the time, I didn't sign on the Wednesday. I signed the day after. The school called me and said, look, are you ready to say a decision? I was like, no. And they said, well, don't come to school today. So I came the next day, and I remember talking. This is the time where coaches can come to the school on signing day. And I remember talking to Gary Stevens in the teacher's lounge, and I said, Coach, man, I'm going to Florida. And, man, he got me, man. Shane, he was one of those, like, Italian-type dudes smoking cigarettes. That's where you smoke cigarettes in the school and all that stuff. He's like, he dropped his head like, and looked up and said, man, I thought it was going to be you and me for the next 3 to 5 years, Michael. You know, he put the guilt trip on me, and my head just dropped, and I was like, wow. And the assistant principal was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, man, I'm confused. I just told the Miami coach I'm going to Florida. And then she just started asking me a series of questions. She said, which school did you like better? I said, well, I like Miami's family atmosphere, but Florida's my dream school. Then she started asking me these questions. The last question she asked me, she said, well, which coach did you like better? Do you like Galen Hall? She didn't even know the name. She like, you like the Florida coach? I said, well, I like Jimmy. Jimmy's more fire and da-da-da. She said, well, don't you think if you like the coach, you know, you'll play better for him? I was like, yeah, you're right. So I was like, I'm going to Miami. So I go, and literally, like, in our little school office, like, it was packed. That was before, you know, you had the reporters there. It wasn't a lot of cameras there, but the coaches and the alumni and the boosters, all that stuff was in there as well, because the school was divided if I was going to go to Miami and Florida. And so I was like, I made an announcement like, I'm going, and I didn't do the LeBron, like I'm taking my talents to South Beach. I was like, I'm going to Miami. And somebody, literally the dude started cursing, that MF. And I was like, wow, it was crazy, man. It was too much pressure for a 17-year-old kid that time, man. That was the hardest decision I ever had to make.
No doubt. So you got to play for Jimmy Johnson and Dennis Eric, both tremendous coaches. Talk a little bit about your college career. You won 2 national titles. You played for a third. Just talk about what it was like playing at the University of Miami when y'all were relevant.
Oh, there you go. Why you gotta throw shots, man? You can, I hear some Florida Gator hate, man. Y'all, when y'all come on, man. Can I get some love? Is this how you gonna treat your former teammates and your guests today, man? Can I get some love? Can we all just get along today? Look, I got my Christ shirt on. Can we get love, man? But no, it was awesome, man. You know, for me, it started off slow because you go from small town of Homestead, where I'm the big fish in a small pond, to now you got to go to University of Miami. You just hitting the reset button, right? I got red shirted. I wanted to transfer. I was like, man, maybe I should have went to Florida. All those doubts start running through your mind. But what happened? And then on top of that, I just told you earlier, like the guy was like, I thought it was going to be me and you. Well, then after my first year, Jimmy leaves and go to the Dallas. So I'm like, he's the reason why I came. Now you left, right? But that's the thing. What made Miami so special is because it's not on the shoulders of one guy. Like it's not like some programs where if one guy leave, like for example, Steve Spurrier leave Florida, then you got to hit the reset button, right? And now, but Miami, it was like Jimmy left and Dennis came in and we kept it rolling, you know? And so, but the biggest thing, the family atmosphere. So being, man, with those ride or die, you mentioned about Lamar Thomas, he was my roommate, right? We came in together our freshman year, and just the relationships and friendships that we had. And then also during that time, you had to pay your dues. Like I told you, I got redshirted. And I started a few games redshirt freshman year because Bernard Clark got hurt. And then he ended up coming back. I ain't play no more, you know? So I had to pay my dues. But then now just the winning and the competition and competing. And at the time you don't realize, but just the tools, the development that you gain at Miami, it's like going to, like a parent sending the kid, like the kid not doing right, like you're going to boot camp. I'm signing you. No, you're going to military, right? To get your life right. That was for me, like going to Miami from a football, even a personal mindset. It was like going through a long-term boot camp that helped you develop your time, that helped you, develop my skill and my mindset, that when it was my time to step up, I was ready. And then to keep it rolling. And then also just the standard that those guys set before me, you had pride, like, man, not on my watch. It's not going down on my watch. It was the standard that was set, that this is the bar that we're reaching for. And it's like, man, I'm going, now, like as a leader, we're going to get there. We're going to play for national championships. We're going to do that. So, I mean, my 5 years at Miami, we lost 5 games, right? And that was the standard. And never, like, even when I look back and watch the games that, like, maybe I forgot the details. I remember watching a Florida State Miami game when we was playing up there in my junior year, and we was down heading to the fourth quarter. And I'm like, how in the world did we end up winning this game? And it was like, but I thought about it during that time, like I never thought we was going to lose. And when we lost, we typically just beat ourselves, right? Turnovers, didn't play well, whatever. But nobody truly ever beat us. And that was the mindset. So it gave me that mindset. And now when I went to the NFL, it gave me a great foundation. It gave me all the tools I needed to be successful. And in the natural, that's one of the reasons why I felt like I had a successful career in the NFL.
When you look back at the Miami, y'all were in the Big East back in those days, and honestly,
basketball,
the competition wasn't great. So y'all's
game throwing shots again, Shane.
No.
That's how you treat your guests.
No, it's
honestly, SEC. I get it. They wouldn't let us in the SEC, man.
Right. But I'm saying, y'all really, when you looked at your schedule, I mean, it was like, okay, we got the Florida State game. That's like the game of the year for us. And every now and then y'all play a Penn State or a Notre Dame or somebody out of conference. Talk about that, the Florida State rivalry. And correct me if I'm wrong, did you ever lose to them?
Yeah,
it seemed you did lose to them, but it always seemed like it came down to a field goal attempt or something.
Yeah, no doubt. Other than, okay, so my redshirt freshman year, we blew them out, like 31-0. They made a video. That's when Dion was there. There was the people's champs and all that stuff. Man, we smacked that butt, man. 31-0, take that home, right? And then the following year in '89, that's when we went up there and we lost to them up there. That's when, I don't know if you remember, but Dexter Carter put the flag on Tiger Clark's head, So we ended up losing that game. But what the thing about it was, we still won the national championship. Even though we lost, we ended up winning the national championship that year. And then after that, that was it. I didn't lose to him since then. So I lost to him once, and that was it. But just when you talk about the rival, like it's like it's like, man, everything shuts down. It's like a dude's like, all right, we ain't going to class this week. You know, that's when class check get a little slack. You know what I'm saying? That's where everything is focused. It's all hands on deck. Like that, we knew that game was basically like it's gonna decide who's going to be national champion that year, because at that time, I mean, it can't basically the championship rolled through Florida. It was either Miami or Florida State. Like Florida was hit the reset button, they was coming back. But I mean, for us at the time, that's where it was. It was like this game is for the national championship, and then it was made it so even tough because a lot of guys, you had a lot of former teammates, high school teammates that was part of Florida State, you know, roster. And then so you had that type of cross dynamics with guys selling out, and then the whole community got involved, man. It's like I remember one time, like Luther Campbell, man, he went up there, he did a show in Florida State, and he videotaped those guys selling out, talking noise, and we ended up taking that clip, and that was the bulletin board material that we needed heading into that game, you know? So everybody was involved, the whole city, the whole town, like me, it was almost like taking a local crosstown rival, but made it statewide, you know? It's like the whole state was divided between Florida State and Miami during that week. And it was like, who's gonna win, you know? And so it was profound. And it was like an instant classic. It was like one of those Muhammad Ali versus Smoking Joe Frazier, you know. Right. I guess we like Ali, we talking to noise, and they Smoking Joe, baby. We the champ.
So you ended up 7th in the Heisman Trophy one year, which is unheard of these days because defense players get no love.
Yeah, and I got no love from it, but go ahead.
So I mean that had to be kind of special to be, you know, in the top 10 of the Heisman Trophy voting, right?
Oh yeah, it was special, man. I was blessed to have a special season. And then, like I said, I jokingly said that I didn't. I wasn't like, you know, on the posters getting blown up for it. All that stuff, it just gradually just happened. Mine's just really just organically just happened because what happened heading into this that my senior year, it was doing Hurricane Andrew. So right heading to training camp and whatnot, Hurricane Andrew came. I remember, Coach, we all evacuated and whatnot. We all went to our separate homes right before camp started. Well, unfortunately, like my hometown, the Homestead, got hit the hardest with the hurricane. So when the team ended up going to training camp at I want to say maybe Daytona Beach or something like the Vero Beach, it was they used the training ground for a baseball team or something like that. They used their facility like one of those professional baseball teams. And so I stayed behind because they helped my community, helped my family. And so when I came back, it was like I got the attention from that. It's like, who's that little kid who home got destroyed for hurricane? So that's how I became, you know, my face became on the national scene. I remember we playing Iowa, and I was like, they wanted to do an interview with me, and I just felt a boldness like, well, I'm not going to do the interview unless you do something for my hometown, like you promote through Red Cross. So, and they never did that before, and God just gave me that wisdom. So during the game, they did a modern day GoFundMe fund on Red Cross, so to support that. So from that time, you know, because God used me to share my story about my mom and how, you know, because I didn't stay with my mom, I was staying with one of my teammates, and when I came to check on my mom after the hurricane damage, and I go around the corner and I see it where the room my mom typically in, it was a big tree on there. So and that's before cell phones and stuff like that. So I didn't know if my parents was going to survive or my mom was alive, and just a relief on my face to see that. And they showed that story. And so just happened, you know, like up until that point, my senior year, you know how sometimes it took me a while to get it going. You know, I got redshirt, started some games, redshirt sophomore year, got beat out, got hurt, then redshirt junior year. So it took me literally 5 years, right? Like heading to my senior year, I still was an unknown factor. I started, but still I didn't have that type of year that I wanted, you know? So it's no different than your senior year in high school, now senior year in college. You want it all to come together. And man, it just all came together. And Don King couldn't promoted it any better, you know? And so I was blessed, man. Ended up having a great year that year. Everything came together. End up you mentioned about the Florida State game, end up having a hit that people keep talking about now. Penn State game, we end up winning that on the road. We're number one team, you know, all that stuff. And so it just happened organically where I got the recognition. Obviously, it's a team sport, one of the team captains, and you don't try to, you know, I'm not that one that I'm like, look at me, right? So it just happened. I'm just grateful that I did get the recognition for it, you know.
Awesome stuff. You get drafted by the Houston Oilers. That makes it sound real old, right?
I know the powder blue, baby, love you blue.
Yeah. So you play with the Oilers, the Panthers, the Giants, a few other teams. Played, I think, 12 or 13 years in the league. Talk about, you know, I try to tell people, you know, I didn't play a whole lot. I was mostly a backup my career. But just the physicality of the National Football League and you being a linebacker, how are you feeling these days? And I'm curious, what running back did you hate facing the most in your NFL days?
Ooh, okay. So it's a few questions. So first of all, how I'm feeling. I'm feeling right now. Feeling good. You know, obviously, it's some stuff that you know. I just turned 50 years old. So and then obviously, when you playing football and I'm old school, I'm putting what I call put my face in the fan. I'm trying to lay heavy, baby. I'm trying to knock the sin out you. You know, so it's obviously it's some pounding, some natural wear and tear. I was blessed. I had two surgery, one coming after my first year, and then the next one, which ended my career. So I'm dealing with stuff like that. And then also at the time when I came in, I was part of the new wave of linebackers. Well, because before then you had to be 6'3", 255. You had that thick Vincent Brown, Undertaker neck race where you took your team picture in your neck like this, you know, like you got triple bicep neck, right? Well, I was more undersized. I was fast, you know, considered fast. I was 232 when I was 20 pounds or 30 pounds lighter than the other guys. So that's when the league started slowly making a transition from predominantly being a 3-4 smash mouth defense to a 4-3 use the speed. So I was part of that generation. So I say that because I was undersized. So when you talk about the physicality, I'm then there dealing with those big 300-pound linemen that looking at me like a Scooby snack, you know? So I'm like, man, so I took a lot of pound. I took a lot of beating, but I was fortunate enough with being with the Houston Oilers that I was around a lot of veteran guys who who played double digit in the league, like the Warren Moons, the Ray Childress, the Bubba McDowells. Like I'm looking at those guys and like Bruce Matthews, right? And I'm looking at those guys. I would ask those guys, man, what do you do? Because NFL meant not for long, right? And then you come in with a question mark, like, how long am I going to play for? You got to prove yourself again. So I didn't know. So I gleaned from those guys, and those guys really did a great job of teaching me how to take care of my body, teaching me how to become a pro. So therefore, I was able to withstand the physicality. I learned the technique, right? I had great coaches, Buddy Ryan, Jeff Fisher, Greg Williams, you know what I'm saying? So those guys was able to pour into me, and I was able to learn that way how to become a pro. And so me going to Oilers, really in the natural, that's one thing that prolonged my career because I got those valuable information on how to become a pro. Now, the second part of your question, who's the best running back or the one I fear the most? It's a couple of them, right? Number one, Barry Sanders. Oh my God.
I agree.
Barry Sanders was a beast. Man, Barry Sanders had you worried about if you're going to try to tackle him, if you was going to elude in your career. And what I'm talking about, like, I saw him like Rod Woodson blew his knee out trying to tackle Barry Sanders. I can see the play in my mind. Woodson, all-pro Hall of Fame cornerback, trying to tackle, and Barry juked him, and he tore his knee up. He had John Lynch still trying to grab him. Like, he was like the Matrix. So Barry Sanders, by far, was one of the dudes that when you enter the game, like, you had all that run through your mind. So what I did was when we played them, I said with him, I'm going to just shoot the gap. Soon as he got the ball, I blitzed him, and I just took my shot. I wasn't going to try to go with a head fake. I just tracked my eyes on that hip and I took a shot. And so I was fortunate I had like 3 or 4 tackles for loss against him. And then I would say old school, I would say, man, because I was undersized, man, I had to, when I face one of those small backs, I try to kill him. But those big back, I took all my frustration out of one of those small backs, try to choke him like Marshall Falks, those little small little scat backs. I was, But when you face one of those big boys, boy, you couldn't bring no paper plates to this party, baby. You had to bring the real deal. You had to put out the China set. So for me, facing like my boy Mac, the Mac Attack, Cleveland Brown, man, Christian Okoye, right?
Yeah.
But then the other dude, man, he got me. I'm still mad about this. Is my man Lewis from Baltimore Ravens, right?
Jamal
man, yeah, Jamal Lewis, man. He ran me over in the game, man. And I thought too much. I never tackled low in my life. And I try to go low. See, I'm making an excuse, right? I try to go low, my feet, and man, he trucked me in the Super Bowl. And I was like, oh God, I was so hurt. So I wish if I had to do a redo, that I would want to, because later on we played the next year and I was like, hit the Joker straight in his mouth. I was so mad that I went for the ankles, and I never did that before. So those the guy, but I got to give him his credit. I mean, he's a good back, and he made you make sure you had your mouthpiece in before you tackled that dude.
We're speaking with University of Miami Hall of Famer Michael Barrow. You can follow him on.
Throw it to you. Hey, you got to throw it to you. Give me something, Shane.
Is that the way you do it?
Thank you. Show me the
love. So after your playing days, you got into coaching. You coached at high school ball, then you went back to your alma mater and coached under Al Golden and Randy Shannon, and then you coached a little bit in the pro ball, Seattle Seahawks. Talk about, I mean, you got a lot of energy. Did you prefer coaching pro ball or college ball?
I prefer coaching. I prefer for my situation, I prefer coaching pro.
Right.
And the reason being because I got 4 young kids and a wife, and football, man, is so demanding. Like college, oh man, I don't want to go back to college. I love coaching the kids in college, but the workload in college, man, is crazy. It's like an offensive lineman mentality where you overwork and unappreciated. Man, those college coaches, you never have a day off, basically. You never have an off season, a true off season. You're like a doctor. You're on call all the time. And this is what I mean. Like, okay, the season, you got the season. The season is the same for pro or college. But for a college coach, soon as the season over with, they play that Saturday. That Sunday, they on the road trying to recruit to set up official visits, right? Then you got the official visits and the bowl game, right? Then the bowl game over, then you got, unless you Florida, you don't go to a good bowl game, but never mind. But then you got recruiting again. You're on the road, right? You take a small little break, but in the beginning of January, dare period to go to the coaching conference, but you still on road, right? And then if you with a coach that's a jerk, he's saying if you don't go to the coaching convention, he wants you in the office. Come on, really? Right? So you got to deal with that. Then after signing day, you get a little break. Signing day is that Wednesday. Most coaches give from Thursday to Monday off, so you can regroup, right? But you come back in the office on Tuesday, what you doing? You getting ready for winter condition. Then you got from winter condition to spring ball. Then you got some spring ball, you got a spring game, then you got spring evaluation, then you got training, you got camps you do. Then when you finally get to the summer, right? The NC2A is giving you 8. Now I think they passed a rule where you can get 8 hours where you can work with your kid. Who want to work with their kids 8 hours? Let the weight train go. I need a break. But then you never get a break. Because why? Because it is phone and recruiting. Because now the way they're doing it, you constantly recruiting, not only that class, most people recruiting 2 classes ahead of time. So then now, literally, I'm with my family when I try to set up boundaries and my phone ring and I get my phone and it's that 5-star recruit linebacker that I've been trying to get on the phone that lives in California that's calling me now when I'm with my family, and I'm looking like I got to get this call, but I got 5 eyes looking at me like, Negro, I wish you would answer that phone right now. We're all going to jump on you. You kidding me? You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, come on, man. So and then on top of that, you're responsible for your own players, right? In high school, right? The parents are responsible for the players. In pros, the players are responsible for themselves. In college, the coaches are responsible for the players. It's like daddy daycare, which I don't mind. That's my ministry, right? But anytime you're responsible for that kid. If your position get in trouble, right, it's you that got to take them to a breakfast club. It's you that's got to discipline. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So you got to deal with that. So you're always on call. So for me, a college coach, man, they're worth as much as money they get. Man, pay them all as much as they can get. They deserve it because it's a full. And then on top of that, if you go black colleges, right? They mostly don't have the budget. So then now that coach is the weight training coach. It's like high school, college, everything it mixed. It's a weight training coach. He's a nutrition coach. He's making peanut butter jelly sandwich. You know what I'm saying? He's doing it all. So it's a bigger ministry in college. But for my mindset, I prefer pros. But then high school is now becoming like college because there's more recruiting going on in high school than college. So it's just crazy now. So the question would be the pros.
About 3 more minutes with you, buddy, and I really do appreciate it. A couple things I want to get to. You're an ordained minister. Talk about that, how important that is to you. And also you have a new podcast that we let you promote as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. As far as being an ordained Christian, man, I just love God, man. I grew up where my mom worked 2 jobs, so I really didn't go to church a lot, but she made sure I went to church. So I went to church, Sunday school, go get the free cookie and the orange juice or the apple juice they give you, right? And I gave my life to Christ every time I went, right? But really, so God kind of took that serious. So what happened to me, I became what I call a public success, but a private failure. I had everything that the world said I needed to be successful. Like you mentioned, I had the 2 national championships, finished 7 in the Heisman. Got drafted by the Oilers. At one point, I became the 2nd highest paid linebacker in the NFL. So I had all the trappings of life, but I had no peace. I had no joy. And God, I didn't know, unbeknownst to me at the time, I didn't know, but God was attacking those idols in my life, the things that I put before him. Like he took that Sunday school commitment, he took it serious. It's like the mafia. It took blood to get me in, the blood of Christ to get me in, but it's going to take my blood to get me out. And so it was one of those things where I thank God he honored that commitment. He showed me how much I needed him, because it was times when you talk about Carolina, Shane, there's times, man, after a game, I'm like, the newspaper was killing me. I was the high profile guy, and I was just like, man, it's got to be more than like this to me. I was sitting in my house with the lights turned off. It's almost like COVID-19. No, I self-quarantined and didn't want to go nowhere because I was ashamed of where I was playing. I was embarrassed. I was like, thought about committing suicide, and God just met me, man. And I remember going into a small church and end up giving my life to Christ. And that changed me. It brought me peace. It got me joy. Because before then, if I played well, I was up here. If I played bad, I was here. My life, football was my foundation. And you're only as strong as your foundation. But then when Christ became my foundation, I became on a solid rock. And it changed my life forever. And then also, I appreciate part of the podcast. Obviously, you see behind me and a former teammate of mine, Kevin Lewis, we came up with this show, a sideline and baseline, and basically what the name and represent. We want to cover all sports, kind of similar to what you're doing, Shane. Want to be a year-round sports show, but then also just have fun, man. Just have fun, have different segments, have components of. I like this show on MTV talking about wilding out, and just do sports fun, create a locker room feel. On Fridays, we do what we call a sit down, where we have former teammates and teams we did. You was gracious enough to come on and have them just share the story behind the story. Then right now we got Take It to the Streets that comes on Sundays and Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. And we just broadcast on social media and just having fun, man.
Last thing for you, real quick. When the Miami Hurricanes going to be back?
Baby, we're making a comeback. We like LL Cool J, baby. Don't call it a comeback. We've been here for years. We're coming back this year, man. Hopefully Manny can get this thing turned around. We got Ed Reed. They brought him on board. We got some guys down there. So right now, I'm saying, hey, Manny, we trust, baby. We coming back.
All right, Michael. Hey, man, we appreciate you joining the show, buddy. Take care. We'll have to have you back on, talk a little more Hurricane football.
Thank
Be
you,
good,
man.
man. Be
You
safe.
got to show me love next time, man. Throw up that you for me, Shay. Throw it up, baby.
One more you. There you go.
All right, appreciate it, man.
Just for you,
Tell
Mike.
Steve Sparrow, give me some meals to the new restaurant, baby. I got to eat.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, today's show is brought to you by Wrap Spot. A vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot will give your business years of brand recognition and increased sales. Call Wrap Spot today. Hey, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure you tune in to us tomorrow and Friday. Got a great show lined up both days. You've been watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Have a great day. Take care. Thank you, brother.